Welcome to Ambassador's Daily Banquet. I am God's servant David F. Nwefulu. Prepare your heart for fresh revelation that will empower your faith.
Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into this idea of discipleship. And our source material has a really powerful take on it. That being a disciple, well, it isn't just about following along. Nope. It's this dynamic, two-sided journey where you're both learning and leading.
So here's our game plan. We're going to kick things off with the core mandate, the foundation for this whole idea. Then we'll really unpack those dual roles of being a learner and a teacher. After that, we'll look at an ancient blueprint, using Moses as our guide. And then we'll wrap it all up by looking at what this means for you, personally, as a call to action.
All right, let's start at the very beginning. The source we're looking at argues that if we really want to get what discipleship is all about, we have to understand the core instruction first, the why behind the entire concept.
And here it is. This is the foundational verse. This passage, which you probably know as the Great Commission, is where the entire argument gets its start. And notice that key word right in the middle, teach. The source points out that this isn't just a casual suggestion, it's a central command. It frames discipleship as an active, educational mission from the get-go. Okay, so let's see how this builds. If teaching is the mandate, then what does that actually make the disciple? Well, this is where it gets really interesting, because the source presents this fascinating dual identity that we've got to unpack. So what does this actually look like? Well, the source defines discipleship as a two-way street. It's not this passive state where you're just soaking up information. It's an active process of both intake and output. This means you're called to be a student and a mentor, and a lot of the time, you're both at once. This really flips the script on the idea of a disciple being just a quiet follower, sitting in the back row taking notes. That idea is completely rejected here. Instead, the argument is that every single follower is called to be an active participant, someone who's constantly learning while also looking for chances to guide someone else. Now, playing both of these roles means you have to develop two very distinct but complementary sets of traits. I mean, think about it. To be a really good learner, you need humility, you need discipline, and you got to be open to correction. But then, to be an effective teacher, you need patience, clarity, and a real commitment to helping others grow. The goal here is to be good at both. So, this all sounds great in theory, right? But does this learner-teacher model actually work in the real world? Well, the source gives us a powerful historical example. A blueprint, really, to show exactly how this cycle creates incredible leaders. The story of Moses is just a perfect model for this whole cycle. First, you see Moses as the learner, right? He's receiving instruction directly from God. Then, he switches hats and becomes the teacher, actively mentoring his successor, Joshua. And what's the result? A new leader, fully prepared, ready to take the reins. It's a crystal clear example of how leadership gets reproduced. And look, this isn't just some dusty old story. The text makes a direct connection to us today. It argues that modern followers are called to walk this exact same path, balancing our own learning, whether it's from mentors or from scripture, with a genuine investment in raising up the next person. And that brings us to the final and maybe the most important part of all this. How does this actually apply to you? This is where the source shifts from theory into really personal, actionable steps. So the very first step is some honest self-assessment. The source material prompts us to ask a really direct question. Looking at your own life, right now, where do you need to be the student? In what areas do you need to actively seek out guidance or wisdom, or maybe even some correction? After you've identified those areas, the next step is a big one. It's about making a conscious choice. The source calls for a clear declaration, a commitment to faithfully play both roles, to be a learner who's always seeking growth and a teacher who's always looking to share what you've learned. It's not one or the other. So why? Why does this dual commitment matter so much? Well, the source leaves us with this incredible final thought. This entire cycle of learning and then teaching isn't just about self-improvement. It's all framed as preparation for something much, much bigger, suggesting that being a disciple is ultimately about being made ready for a glorious
Thank you for watching. Please share, like, and comment. Your host, God's servant David F. Nwefulu.